Hello friends, welcome back to Self Serving Skillet. This episode is for my mother. For years, my mom has been asking me to make a curry episode and I just haven't gotten around to it. I had some things to learn and I'm going to leave a couple links in the description of this video to resources that have helped me out. And this video is really going to be split into two parts. First part, we're going to mix our spice blend, stay with our monthly theme of making our own spice blends, and then afterwards we're going to make a curry. So first we want to start out with a really good curry powder. Wrong! That's actually an invention of the British Empire during the occupation, colonialization of India. The Brits came up with curry powder to be able to emulate the curries that they had in India. Another common misconception is that curry actually means something. It's sort of a catch-all term, phrase, something like, and forgive me here, but soup, sandwich, stew, hash. It can mean a whole lot of things. It's very like here in the United States, chili or barbecue sauce. We generally have an idea of how these things should taste and character profiles that they should have, but they can be very different. And in fact, in India and much of the rest of Southeast Asia, the curry of the area, the local cuisine, which is not always called curry, they all actually have their own names, can vary by state to state, region to region, religion to religion, and household to household. So when we say curry, when we use this catch-all phrase for this wonderful culture of dishes, we can literally be talking about one of several thousand variations in a recipe. But the spice blend that most of them have in common is called Garam Masala. And we are going to make that today. To make your Garam Masala, you're going to want 3 parts coriander, 2 parts cumin, 2 parts cardamom, 2 parts black pepper, and about a half a part each of nutmeg, cinnamon, and clove. I like to use the whole spices. They taste a lot better. You can get away with using some ground spices, and that's just fine. Use what you have, and then when you run out, adjust. Now, just a note about all of these spices. Number one, the cardamom comes in pods, and to get the spice out, you need to break the pod and peel it apart. And so when I say 2 parts of cardamom, I'm talking about the seeds inside of this pod, not the whole pod itself. I'm also using ground cinnamon here. My guy was out of cinnamon sticks, but that is usually what you want to use in this recipe, because we're going to be toasting these whole, and you don't want to toast something that's already been ground. And in fact, I'm not, and I'm going to show you what I'm going to do instead. And then the nutmeg is too big to portion out and toast and then grind. In fact, it doesn't really behave very well in the grinder, so I'm just going to zest this into the dish with my ground spices. Now I'm gonna take all of these spices and get them in a hot pan, and you want to move that around as much as you can. If you can't saute, get a wooden spoon and flip that around. If you need a point of reference, well, then take some untoasted spices, put them on the side, or just leave the jar open by where your station is, And then you have a visual reference of what it did look like and what it looks like now. When it's smelling really, really good, I'm gonna take those whole spices off and put them in a container to cool. I don't want to grind them while they're still hot. And they will continue to cook a little bit, so you don't want to wait until they're burning to pull them off. Once they're cool to the touch, you can get them into a spice grinder or a mortar and pestle and grind those up. In this case, I'm just going to mix my pre-ground spices and the spices that I ground myself, and there is my garam masala. And I've seen this made differently. It usually has most of these ingredients, but all it means is hot spices. And that doesn't even necessarily mean spicy. Keep in mind, we aren't using anything that's hot here. What it actually means is warming spices. This fills you with the dish, with the curry, from head to toe. You just feel full of warmth and bright flavors. So we've made our garam masala. We're gonna keep our spices out. We're gonna keep our whole spices out because we're going to use them one more time. And this is all about layering flavors. We're gonna use the same thing a couple different times in the cooking process, and that's gonna give us the flavors and aromatics of everything we have here, just all the way across the spectrum. It's gonna be very filling. You're gonna feel full of flavor when you eat this. What we're going to do next is to make a chili, garlic, ginger paste, and this is going to be really simple. We're just gonna throw some ingredients in the blender, and it's almost like we're making a salsa, but it's gonna be very gingery. And I'm gonna start with a whole tomato, and I want a bigger tomato because I want a lot of volume in this. This is going to be simmering for a little while, and water's going to escape. Tomatoes are full of water, so I want a big one. And to that, I'm going to add a thumb of ginger, about 2 inches long. If it's thicker, you can go less. If it's thinner, just ginger to taste. But that's how much I went with. And 1 chili. Now, you can do whatever you like. Whatever's local to you, that's what curry is all about. That's most of the reason why it differs from region to region. Get something that tastes good to you, something with a heat level that you like. This was just 1 small serrano chili, because that's what I had. You can't have chili garlic paste without garlic, and here I'm using a whole head of garlic, and I think this was about 10, 12 cloves. And then we're going to go in with our onion. Now in this, I'm going to use about 2 medium-sized onions for the entire dish. I'll put about half of an onion in this blender, and we're just gonna blend it up until it's nice and smooth. And you want it nice and smooth. This took about 2 minutes to get to the smoothness that I wanted it to. You want it nice and smooth because if you make it very chunky, you are going to get a chunky gravy. You could also use all of these ingredients and chop them with a knife. Then you're gonna get a very chunky gravy. So this is just a create your own experience type of thing. We have a few more things to prep before anything sees the heat. And one thing is Kashmiri chili powder. Most Indian curries call for Kashmiri chili powder, which is wonderful and warming and has such a bright, vibrant red color. And that's something that I don't have, and if you don't either, that's okay. If you come across it, it's worth picking up, but you could use paprika with a little bit of cayenne pepper. You could use regular American style chili powder. We made a chili powder on the show a couple weeks ago, so you could check that out. But Kashmiri chili has sort of a full flavor with like a medium heat and a little bit of like a smokiness. And that sounds a lot to me like two peppers that I actually have, the chipotle and the guajillo. We used both of these in our chili powder recipe. So I'm going with guajillo. I'm going with 2 of them, and I'm just gonna break off the stem and put them right in the spice grinder for use later. And I'll tell you when that is. And the other is to prep our chicken. And I'm going in with chicken thighs today. Now, you could butcher a whole chicken and use all of the parts in this. That would probably be the more economical way to go about it. However, that breast is gonna cook a lot faster than the thighs and the drumsticks, and it's gonna get dry. So all I did, I bought some thighs. And I love thighs. Anybody who loves the show knows that I love chicken thighs. And you want the bone in and the skin on because that's gonna give the most flavor to the dish. The skin has a lot of fats in it that will help to fill out your dish, and the bones have gelatin and collagen and bone marrow and everything that's going to fill out your curry. So bone in, skin on. I'm just going to toss them in enough turmeric to coat them. And now we're all prepped. Now we can get started. Now we can make our curry. Now I want to get a pan over a medium-high heat, and we're going to get some high heat oil into that pan. Now, what is traditional is mustard oil, and it does have a very nice flavor, but you don't have to use that. Just make sure that your oil is refined for high heat, because a lot of this will be done on very high heat. And once the oil is shimmering, we're going to go in with a few of those whole spices with the addition of bay leaves. I'm going to put a couple of bay leaves into this oil along with the whole spices of, I put some cardamom in there. Make sure to crack the pods so they don't explode on you when they get under pressure. And then I also put some cloves in that oil as well. Now, if I had whole cinnamon sticks, I would add a whole cinnamon stick as well. We don't have that, so we're going to show you cinnamon later that will get you a similar idea. And when you can just start to smell those, just start to smell them blooming, I'm going to go in with my chicken, with my turmeric coated chicken, and I want to get this on each side for maybe 2 minutes, not very long. We're just gonna sear this off. We're gonna get turmeric into that oil. We're gonna take it out. Now our oil is nicely flavored and seasoned. Our chicken is nice and seared. We can go in with the next step. That other onion and a half, that goes in now, and we wanna cook this on a very high heat until it just starts to get brown. And when the onion just starts to get brown, that's where I'm going to do my little cinnamon hack, because all I have is the ground cinnamon. I'm going to get some cinnamon in there. I'm going to allow it to bloom for maybe a minute. Then we're going to go in with our ground guajillo. This is where you would put in the Kashmiri chili powder if you had it. Give that about another minute, stir that around, make sure that you can smell everything. Now this goes fast and it's on high, so don't walk away. You can't like make a curry and do your dishes, or make a curry and check your email. Make sure that you're set up with a cup of coffee or whatever you need before you start doing this, because you cannot walk away, especially when your heat's on high. So from that high heat, we're going to turn it down to like a medium low, because now we're going to add all of this chili paste, and this is a lot of liquid, and we're adding it to oil. If we have it on high, it's going to splash all over the place. If we turn it down to low and just allow that to come down for like a minute, add that chili paste, add everything that you have in the blender, and let it all bubble and marry together for a couple minutes. Now you can turn your heat back to medium high at this point, because our goal is to sort of evaporate some liquid. We want this to simmer so that it dries out a little bit. So after 2 or 3 minutes of that, we are ready to add a couple more ingredients. We're going to pinch in just a little bit of salt. Remember, you can always salt later as well. Salt to taste after we get everything into the bowl or a finished product in the pan. And then we're just gonna go in with about a big spoon of our garam masala mix. Now, you can always add this later. We have flavors from before. Our oil is flavored, that's in the dish now. Now we're going in with a little more spice blend. We're gonna add a little bit more later. So you really wanna be sort of conservative at every level, and then your dish won't be over seasoned, it'll be just appropriately seasoned over time. And when that is stirred in and incorporated and smelling really nice, I'm gonna go in with about half a cup of yogurt. You want a plain yogurt. You want a whole milk yogurt. And an essential tip is to stir this around until it is smooth. Sometimes you get yogurts and they're not exactly chunky, but they have a little bit more texture to them. You want this to be an even texture so that it cooks evenly in the pan and you run less risk of it separating once it hits that hot food. Once it's uniform, I'm gonna get my chicken back into the pan, let that get to know each other for a little bit of time, 2-3 minutes, and then I'm gonna go in with my potatoes. Now, these are just baby potatoes, little potatoes that I've quartered, and I'm going to try to stick them down in the cracks here. I don't have a very big pan. This braising pan is probably the biggest thing that I have, but if you have something bigger, you can toss all of these ingredients together. I'm just trying to stick them down in the crack so that everything cooks. Now this one's going in for kind of a nap, not a long rest, but it's going in for a nap. So I'm just gonna add a few more ingredients before we put the lid on, let it simmer for like half an hour. One of those is going to be sugar. Now this isn't gonna be enough to make it sweet. This is just going to be enough to sort of balance the flavors. This is all about balance and flavor over time. So we're just going to go in with maybe a big spoon of sugar. You can also use some honey. I've used agave syrup before, just something a little bit sweet to balance it out. And the other thing is a little bit of hot water. I probably used about 3/4 of a cup of hot water just to bring this back up to a consistency that I thought might be fine to let simmer for 30 minutes. You want to be careful not to add too much water like I kind of did here, but that is not as bad as letting it be too dry and then putting it on the simmer very dry. That's kind of the opposite of helpful. So err on the side of too much water because you can always simmer it out. And after that half an hour simmer is through, we're just going to toss this around, see how we did, see if that gravy is too loose or too thick. And as we go through, we're going to see the whole spices and take those out at this point. Those are not for eating. right? Those are for flavor and their job is done. You may, if you use whole spices like this in the oil, you may at the table get a whole spice. Just be an adult, take it out, warn your guests. Now this is the point where you want to do your final seasoning. You're gonna taste for salt. I like to just do a sprinkling of the garam masala on top. Probably not even like a quarter teaspoon for the whole thing. Just enough to go fresh spice, right? So layers of flavor again. And the first time that I dished this up, I thought, hey, this is delicious. The gravy's a little too loose for me. It's looking a little too much like a soup. So I went back on the heat and I simmered for about an additional 10 minutes until it was the consistency that I wanted it to be. This is your curry. You control your own consistency. Who cares what's traditional? I mean, it's my mouth, right? I'm the one eating it. I'm serving my family, nourishing my loved ones. This is this is my curry, damn it. We have our chicken curry over a bed of rice. I wasn't going to serve it with rice because I have potatoes in it, but I just couldn't resist. And I'm just going to break up the chicken a little bit with a pair of forks. I'll probably end up using my hands to eat this chicken bone here. I just don't want to have to use a knife. So let's get into it. I'm gonna get a little bit of. Let's just get some rice with the gravy. That's always a really good indicator here. It smells very warm and just comforting. The cardamom, the coriander, just a hair of heat from that serrano and the guajillo. Man, I really like this. And I called my mom after the first time I made a curry, and I told her, man, I never really appreciated curries until I made one myself. And after going through all of the sights and sounds and smells and tastes, and just knowing everything and how much work I put into it, it's actually not a lot of work. It's just time and attention that you're putting into this. But I appreciate the hell out of this. I love potatoes because they absorb so much flavor, and I don't know, man, that potato is just super tasty. Chicken. It's really tender. It's another reason why you want to use a fattier cut of meat. The chicken thigh, the drumstick, the wing, don't use the breast. Unless you would otherwise waste it. Like, why would you waste it? Don't waste a chicken breast. But all of that muscle fiber breaks down in a much slower way that loves a slow cook. And you can even add spices right here. I'm just gonna add a little bit more nutmeg because I really love that flavor, just right over the top. Get in the kitchen and make yourself something amazing. Mom, I hope you enjoyed your curry. Now everyone, enjoy the bloopers. Oh, we're still rolling. Hello. All my spices in a row. All right. Why would you pay full price? Why would you pay full price for that? This video is not edited yet, but I'm gonna guess it's gonna be like 5 or 6 minutes. That's a stupid thing to say.